in this lesson, we're going to go over how to bake on some textures. Before you get started, you always need to bake on the textures onto your forms here. And then we're going to start adding some texture to this, some procedural textures. And so with Substance Painter, there's many libraries with procedural elements on it, and basically you want to almost treat that almost 80 to 85% using the tools that are here, and then near the end you'll start adding your own little details like the decals and your own little painting. So before you do all that, you definitely want to do as much as possible and let the painter do as much work for you. All right, so what we're going to do, again, holding your shift and right mouse will oscillate that image, which is kind of lighting that scene. That's where you're getting your yellows and so forth. And we do have a drop shadow. Again, Alt and middle mouse and right. It's just like Maya, the same interface, which is great. So you don't have to relearn a whole different interface, which is ZBrush will be a whole different tool set. So what we're going to go ahead and do is start baking out some maps. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to go ahead and pull some stuff out. Let's see, texture set. We're going to go ahead and dock that. That's going to pull it over here. You can always undock these and then pull them back up. Just hitting these little icons here. So get used to that. If you have multiple screens, you can pull these over into another screen. That's great. But for me, I only have this one screen. So what we're going to do is some of these things may have been set to like 256. You just want to make sure you're at 2K. If you're really ambitious and are doing like a really big character, you can do 4K. And then once you get an Unreal or Maya for render with Arnold, you can always set this back to 2K if you have 4K. So you can always minimize these. They do get heavy after a while. These are our channels default here. We're going to go ahead and hit Bake Mesh Maps. I'm just going to bring up the dialog box. Again, we're going to do 2K. I don't think we need to go any higher. We are going to turn off the thickness. If we were going to bring in like later on when we bring in like an FBX or an OBJ, we're going to bake it in into a character. Let's say like the Cricut project, we would turn this off and then we would bake in our own normal maps. We're going to go ahead and allow that to bake. I think the only other thing is we need to go into our ID, and this may have been on vertex color. Just make sure that is on material color. Left click, go back to common. I think you're good to go. And we're going to bake selected characters. Normally you need to bake one at a time. You can bake one at a time, but I think this goes through everything. So you're going to actually watch this. You can skip ahead, but you're going to see it go through and cycle through and baking all these. Basically we have one main shader on all of them, so it's going to go through. So we're going to go ahead and hit bake selected textures. You can see it's going through the base right now, doing curvature, ambient, position, normals. It's doing that for each one, and you can see as it going through each of these objects, you can see it's developing this long list of different maps. So when we start to paint, it's painting on each of these. All right, excellent. So we're just going to go ahead and hit OK. So you can see it's done each one from ambient, occlusion, curvature, position, ID, world space, and all that for all of them. So we're going to go hit OK. And we go ahead and give you some hotkeys, okay? So Shift B. So just definitely write this in your book, Shift B. And also there's a cheat sheet right here on different other hotkeys here. But I'm just hitting Shift B. And up here on the right, make sure you know where this is. This is a good drop-down menu to know. So we're in world space. You really don't need to know what that means right now, but this is our normal map. Again, if we were baking it in from a very high-end polygon like the Cricut, you would see textures in here that we would have picked out. But right now it's flat. We don't have any information. This is thickness. Again, when we pick out our textures, you'll start to see this position. This is global position, and also this is curvature, and then this is our ambient occlusion. So that automatically bakes it out, ambient occlusion, which is nice. All right. Also M will get us back to material. So make sure you know Shift B and then M. Those are two like key ones to kind of jump back and forth. Okay. So let's go ahead and start adding some procedural material. Again, some of the stuff we're not going to use anymore, so you can just go ahead and close that out. Again, I only have one screen. You guys have maybe multiple. I've seen some of you guys have 3, so lucky you. What I'm going to do is go ahead and make sure you have the dumpster base selected. So what we have selected is the one that we're working on. Go ahead and turn off the rest, and we're just going to work on the dumpster right now. All right. So if I hit Shift, you can see it's quite flat. There's no information on there yet. All right. And if we go to my image, we've noticed some things that we want to do, maybe some pounding in, and we were going to do this in ZBrush, but I think it's easier just to kind of do this in Painter. So we've got little welding marks and we've got rust, but the thing is the patina here. We want to add several layers of this patina, and we're going to do this over several videos, but we're going to get you started today on just a base level on this, maybe the bar and the drain and also the lids. So if we can get that far today and you kind of get a basic understanding of that, we're going to keep this very, very simple. We're not going to go dive too deep, but again, we're just trying to add a little bit of a look. So do pull this up, because you do want to use a color picker to be able to select a color. So it's very important. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started, and I've got the dumpster selected. Again, I did this earlier and I had this selected, but I had the dumpster eye wink on, and it was adding color to the drain pipe. So make sure that dumpster base is selected, and I'm going to go ahead and click these on. Maybe they're wrong, maybe they're right. We're going to do layers here, and then I'm going to pull up the properties for the paint. And again, I'm using this unlock or undock, and it's dumping it over here. You can always undock it or get rid of it anytime, and it'll pop up over here on the right side. So don't fear if you don't see it. It's always over here, and you can undock, dock anytime you want. All right. So again, make sure you have that dumpster base selected. Default, it gives you one. I'm going to go ahead and delete it, and I'm going to go ahead and delete one of these. I did 2 by accident. And this is my fill layer. So this is going to be my base color, and this can change anytime. This is procedural, so you're not set with this stuff. This is made to kind of go back and forth and change the dynamics of your look. So just get used to that idea. Right now we have UV projection, which is fine, but I want to go ahead and get you used to using triplanar projection. So that way, when we don't have these harsh seams, especially when we get into very organic UV mapping, like a biped or a creature or whatever, and your seam, you don't want the seam to show up. So go ahead and get used to the triplanar. It'll put a dialog box around it. That's fine. All right. So in this first one, we're going to turn off some of these things, and these are the different maps that we were working with that we baked out. So we don't really need a normal map right now. We don't really need a height map right now. We just want color, rough, and metal. Okay, again, this is just our base color. And so I'm going to kind of pull this over to the side so I can see some of that blue. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this color picker. And I'm going to try to go for the dark blue. Okay, it's kind of randomly go around. For some reason I keep getting the lighter highlight ones. Okay. And you can adjust it here. If you don't like that blue, whatever, you can change it anytime, right? Um, I thought we'd just kind of use kind of a color picker, show you how to use that. That's our blue, and I think it's not the right blue, but let's see if we can get a little bit darker. Okay, probably not it, but that's all right. We're just getting a start of some color. Again, hold down your Shift and right mouse button, and again, please make sure you have a mouse. This is not going to work if you're just doing this off of the trackpad on your computer, and that may cause some other issues. I think that may have caused an issue, as I say, for another student in Maya. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started. So that's our base layer. That's great. I'm going to go ahead and add another fill layer. And so we're going to go ahead and click on that. You can see right away, whatever is on top is going to dominate the scene. So this is basically like Photoshop, but for 3D. And Adobe has acquired this, by the way. And so it makes sense that this layering system is used in the same kind of similar way. So in this case, we do not want our color. But we do want some of the attributes, and we want probably just our rough pass. So this one, we're not going to do height. It's just a rough pass, and so you're not going to see things projecting out. We're just going to kind of dirty up the surface, okay? So you can see that kind of patina and so forth. So what we're doing is just kind of breaking it up so when the light hits it, it has kind of this beautiful attribute to it. But we're not doing height yet. That will be down the road. So we're just kind of focused on rough, okay? If you see it, me go up and down on the rough, it's not really doing anything. All right, so this is sitting on top of our color. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a procedural actually I'm gonna right click and add a black mask. All right, so this mask is going to basically sit on top of it and use a procedural texture on it. And so with this mask, we're going to go ahead and add a generator. Okay, so we're going to click on the generator and double click here. And I'm going to type in, and you can already see the one that I want, but I want to show you how you guys can get used to this library. So I hit MG dirt, and it pulls up this guy right here. All right, so you can roll over and kind of see. And MG Dirt is just kind of a good way to get started on all materials. Anytime I go with a new object in here, even the stuff that you saw with my own private research, you can see that I always start with some sort of dirtying up the scene, so it's not perfect. You don't want anything nice and clean. You want something where the specular light will hit. So we're going to go ahead and hit that generator, the dirt, the MG dirt. And again, we're going to zoom in and hit shift. And you're like, dude, there's nothing there. Okay. So what we want to do is kind of go up to our roughness. And we're going to go up and down on that. Okay. So if you don't change that roughness, you won't see anything. So the roughness, as you get lower, can go shiny, or it can become like a dull thing. So I don't think we're going to do shiny because this is a garbage can or dumpster. And now if I hit shift and roll over that, you can start to see how that light is kind of spreading over it. So it's really, really beautiful. And again, we haven't added any depth to it. We did take off the height. So I don't know if we add height, we would add some grotesqueness to it. We don't want to do that. We're just adding some rough passes now, and I want you guys to get used to doing a roughness pass. All right, so if I click on here, if I hit, again, use your notepad and get used to learning your notepad. So if we hit Alt and left mouse button, you can see basically the roughness patch map on what it looks like. So you can see it's adding this texture all over it. So to get out of that, you hit the magic key, which is M. That's our material. Okay, really get used to that because you really want to be able to jump back and forth. So that is Options or Alt, depending if you're on a PC or a Mac, and then left will go into this kind of roughness or a rough look. And so I'm going to hit M to go back. All right. So this is going to be really quick. I don't want to go too far or too deep with this, but you can already see that it's kind of giving some life to it. And over here, we're going to have up to probably 8 to even 20 layers here that we're going to layer on top of this, with texture to rust and to decals and stuff like that. And that's just the base. So we haven't even talked about the top yet. So what we want to do is, instead of just our dirt, we're going to add another layer to this. So we're going to add a grunge layer to this, but we're not going to use a generator. We're just going to go ahead and add a fill. And you can see right away if I hit shift that kind of went mute, right? So I'm going to show you how to get that back. But right now we're going to go to grayscale, and we want to do some scratches. Just type in scratch, okay? And we can actually type in grunge scratch. We can get even more specific. And again, we're just going to basics today. Again, all this stuff is on your library here. So you can roll over these and hold, and you can see these different textures show up. Okay, so I'm just going to grab the first one, click on that, and you can hit shift, and you can see that grunge take place. All right, so we want these to work together. Again, we have a generator already. Anytime you see a UV projection, do a triplanar. That will help get those edges and everything to blend together so you don't see these harsh edges. So anytime you see, go ahead and hit triplanar. Unfortunately, it does a stupid dialog box, but that's all right. You can play around with the scaling of Grunge Maps. I usually don't play around too much. You can play around with hardness, but this is the stuff that you can get into. And again, with the grunge amount, you can play around with that, but you can't see that right now because I've got this on. So what we want to do is, just like Photoshop, you can add several layers and then blend them together. So we're going to go to our normal. This is dominating everything that's underneath it. So we're going to go normal, and you've heard of multiply in Photoshop, but we're going to go ahead and I'm going to do lighten max. All right, and you can see if I turn off my grunge, you can kind of see this layering on top of each other. I think I did lighten max. Let's do darken minimum. All right, so I'm going to do dark minimum. And again, I'm just showing you just an extra layer of scratch and grunge with that. All right, so if I go up here and I hit, again, what was our Alt and left, I can start to see my grunge map. All right, so again, hit M for materials, hit shift, and I just want to get you guys used to adding some sort of specular look to this. Again, we're going to look at our image, and you can see all these wonderful kind of colors and so forth. And so again, just go ahead and get used to going into your grunge or your dirt and play around with these settings, okay? This is how you make these things really beautiful. Maybe we had too much dirt level, you can add less and a little bit more. Again, these are tied together, and so when you attack one, it'll attack the other. So again, use shift and right to kind of speed around. You're going to get used to using this all the time so you can see from different angles what this looks like with different light. And also you can spin it around, but again, that light source is locked to it. All right, so we're going to stop here. I think this is probably a good stopping point for all of us. If you're advanced, go ahead and try this on the drain or the bar and so forth. Looks like something's happened to the bar. Not sure what happened. But go ahead and start texturing these one at a time. Go ahead and put black on here on this bar, maybe a silver, and start adding a little bit of textures to these. And then stop, because I do want to go over slowly how to do rust and all the other features. All right, so good luck. Again, just stop and just put the base color on the rest of the attributes. And again, when you work on attribute, make sure you have it selected. But again, the big thing, make sure you have that selected. If it's not selected, you're going to be starting to add material to something that's not even highlighted. So when you go on to the next material, I always delete and add a new filler layer. And before long, this is just like Photoshop, but so much more powerful because you get to add 3D textures and really make this dumpster come alive. So on the next 2 or 3 tutorials, I'll show you how to add bumps of rust and also decals and all those little details that really will make this sing. Again, we really want to work on making just the subtle scratches, or not scratches, but the subtle light differences on how that is hitting the surface right now. We haven't even got into textures or bumps so far. All right, I will shut up. Good luck on this, and I'll see you in class.